Okay, we are shifting focus now to a entirely different story that we have playing out. We'll bring you more details around it. This is the recent Supreme Court appointed SIT giving a clean chit to the Vantara Zoological Rescue and Rehabilitation Centre. A bench of Justices Pankaj, Mithal and PB Varale took the SIT report on record, noting that authorities are satisfied with Vantara's compliance and regulatory measures when it comes to acquisition and animals. We'll bring you more details around it, but this is 3 weeks after it set up an SIT to probe the allegations against Vantara, Reliance Foundation's Wildlife Rescue and Rehabilitation Centre in Gujarat's Jamnagar. The Supreme Court said SIT's exhaustive investigation had found no contravention in the law, saying that it had no hesitation in accepting this conclusion. The court has now closed the suo motu proceedings in this entire order. We're going to bring you more details around it. My colleague Anand Narsiman spoke to Sohail Seth, who had talked more about this. Take a look at the conversation.
There has been a lot of noise that's been made around Vantara. I have personally been there. You have to see it to believe it. But for those naysayers who on hearsay, on articles, who are compelled to try and defame an effort like this, your thoughts on the court's observations and the SIT's findings?
Anand, I've been to Vantara on the 2nd of March last year, 2024. It is something that India should be proud of. The conservation is globally the finest. But what do we do in our country? Anyone who does good work will be flooded by stupid PILs. Now tell me, you have Justice Chelmeshwar, who was the head of the SIT, who in the world of these so-called left liberals and leftists is seen as an anti-Modi judge. He's the chair of the SIT. You have a gentleman called Hemant Nagarkar, who was the police commissioner, appointed by who? The Mahayuti, Uddhav Thackeray. So no one can say these were Modi lovers or Modi appointees. These are people who were actually and are actually anti-Modi. So the first thing we establish is that this committee is so left that you can't imagine. And if this committee has found Vantara to be totally above board, which it is, has analyzed every facet, as you have rightly mentioned in your opening remarks, whether it is the procurement, it is the rehabilitation, it's the resuscitation, it is the looking after of animals, they have not found one thing wrong. I salute the Supreme Court. But what tragically saddens me is that in our country, we have these people with agendas who constantly want to belittle good work that is being done. I have seen Ambani as a child. I have seen his enduring love for the voiceless, for the helpless, for animals. You know, it takes a lot of courage, Anand, and it's not about the money. It takes a lot of courage to devote your life to a passion that will not be seen in a profit and loss statement. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of passion to do things that you believe are for the betterment of people who can't even thank you, because these are voiceless animals. You have set a world standard in conservation. And then you have these scoundrels, whether it be in South Africa, which by the way is, they're absolute rascals. South Africa has now these jokers who've written vicious articles. And look at the decency of an Anand or a Mukesh or a Neeta. Not one of them responded to these scurrilous allegations. They could have been sued, silly. Today, it is not a judgment in favor of Vantara. It's a judgment in favor of compassion. It's a judgment in favor of doing the right thing. It's a judgment in favor of people who will do the right thing without taking the credit. We should be proud of Vantara. We as Indians should be proud that we have been able to create a rehabilitation and a center for the voiceless. But what do? We have planted PILs, we have agendas that are being pursued, and we have criminal mentality as far as conservation and conservation excellence is concerned. Today, the Supreme Court has actually helped each one of those 40,000 inhabitants of Vantara. Let me ask you one question.
Right.
Today, we have Vantara, which is actually helping zoos. It is helping conservation experts. There are many conservation experts who've been there.
Yeah.
And what do? You try and belittle you try and demean, you try and find fault. This is something we should be proud of.
Yes.
I mean, that is the problem with the Ambanis. When they do good, they don't want to talk about it, and at times it works against them. Now, can you imagine if the Ambanis had actually decided, oh, we're going to brag about it, we're going to get people in, but that's not them, and that shouldn't be them.
Okay, we'll go over to our legal correspondent Ananya Bhatnagar in just a few moments to understand more about the case itself. The court had issued directions, remember, for setting up of a 4-member SIT back on August 25th. Now, this SIT was led by former Supreme Court Judge Justice Jasti Chalameshwar on the basis of 2 PILs that were filed in the wake of a controversy of the shifting of an elephant. The SIT had then proceeded to visit Vantara for 3 days in the first week of September. It had submitted its report on September 12th. And we'll tell you a little bit more about what it is that the report had to say after having coordinated, because it coordinated with multiple different organizations, did this investigation in coordination with multiple agencies, opined and concluded that there was no violation of the Wildlife Protection Act and a few other acts. We're just going to talk about it in a second. We'll have our reporter Ananya join us to tell us a little bit more. Ananya, can you shed light on what it is that the order had to say? I know the court said it based its order on the SIT report, but what did it have to say?
The court had very categorically yesterday itself, in fact, stated and given a clean chit, as in fact the SIT itself had given a clean chit to Vantara as far as the activities there are concerned. Not only that, in fact, the taking away of that temple elephant was also said to be correct by, in fact, the Supreme Court. They said that there is no problem with that. However, proper procedures must be followed, and that Vantara would be doing is what the Supreme Court had felt. In fact, a detailed order was actually passed down by the court, and certain excerpts of the report were also attached along with that particular order. In fact, the Supreme Court had, given out its appreciation for, the committee the SIT that had, in fact, worked upon and submitted the report. In fact, it stated that, before parting, we record our appreciation for the painstaking efforts of the SIT for conducting the inquiry with a commendable thoroughness and fearlessness with all promptness, is what the Supreme Court had to say. Various directions, though, were passed as far as the, and the Supreme Court had noted, and if I could take you through that, is that the SIT had noted that the approval and the decision of the high-powered committee headed by Justice Deepak Verma, who's a former judge of the Supreme Court, with regards to matters related to the transfer of elephants in India was taken. While accepting the report and the summary with the schedule thereof, be direct as under these are the directions, if I may read. The proceedings of the report of the SIT, that is the report and annexes, including the pen drive, be resealed. In fact, the summary of the report, which is exhaustive in itself, as it does not carry, comparable sensitiveness or attract the same degree of confidentiality, but provide a faithful account of the conclusions reached by the SIT, shall not be treated as confidential. So basically, certain parts of the report were made non-confidential so that the people can actually read and go through the recommendations that have been there, while, the Supreme Court very clearly giving out a clean chit to Vantara in this matter is concerned.
Okay, thank you, Ananya, for bringing us that context.